Hi, and welcome to the 2020 Green Tie Awards, brought to you by Conservation Voters. Executive Director for Conservation Voters tonight. Well, I'm always Executive Director, but I'm here with you tonight, and with me tonight is Rebecca Haynes.
Hello, I'm the Deputy Director for Conservation Voters of South Carolina. I also get to serve as one of our registered lobbyists, so it's extra special for me to get to honor some of the legislators we're honoring tonight. And I'm glad to be here with you tonight, John, in a new venue.
I know, we have a new format this year. We are not having a luncheon at 701 Whaley with 500 people all sitting down and eating together. Because of the impacts of COVID-19, we've had to make a few adjustments. But there's been a lot of changes this year as a result of COVID-19 impacts. Green ties had to change.
Right, the legislature has been an adventure. It's really been a journey since we all went home for quarantine in March. They came back some over the summer. They're actually in special legislative session tonight. I think the House might still be in session. So it's been a wild ride, but we're here for it.
We are, and baseball has been upended. We're actually here in Secker Park, home of the Columbia Fireflies. We're looking out at this gorgeous field that's unfortunately not being able to be used this year. So lots of changes as a result of COVID. But that being said, I mean that's a good transition to. We want to thank both our staff as well as our board of directors, you, our viewers, and a whole lot of folks for kind of helping us make this switch, make this change. Our awardees have been so gracious in allowing us to honor them virtually. It's really been a pleasure to work with all the folks kind of pitching in to make Green Tie a success. But of course, we have to recognize our major sponsors for Green Tie this year. Oceanic Gold Hail Operation, Google, NextEra Energy, Arnold Nimero, Hacklet Milliken, El Close, and the Pump House Restaurant. And the list goes on and on. And despite being virtual and not being able to be with us in a room tonight, they've given generously to help make this event a success and continue to recognize conservation leadership and achievement.
Now, also the CVSC team, right, would not be complete without help from outside folks. So we have special thanks.
That's true, yeah. So as told by agency, which is our film, our video, our editing, basically our digital gurus.
They made this work tonight.
And as you all will see shortly, the videos that they've done are just breathtaking and maybe even tear-inducing for some. So. Zenobia Harper and the Rice Museum for giving us a place to film. Peg Howell for joining us on one of the videos. El Close, Historic Columbia, and the CVSC Board of Directors and the CVSC Education Fund Board of Directors for all of their great continued support. I mean, again, Green Tie is really folks to come together and pull it off. So we're excited to have all those folks be a part of the adventure and event tonight.
All right, so John, what are the Green Tie Awards all about? Why are we here?
So we are here for our 12th annual Green Tie. So we've been up to this for 12 years. We're here to honor House and Senate leadership and citizen leadership to really advance conservation across South Carolina. Clean air, clean water, clean energy, and land protection.
This is a way for us to just really highlight the champions, right? The folks that go above and beyond.
Right.
So we'll have fun with it.
Right. Well, and sometimes those champions, are in the spotlight. Sometimes they're there in the legislature. They're taking the well. They're speaking out. They're out in front. But sometimes they're not. I mean, we do a scorecard, and the scorecard's only part of the picture, right?
Right. So this goes beyond just who's voting yes or no, who's sponsoring legislation. It gets into who's really putting in the work, because it takes so much to make a vote come along, right? And to change policy and to change hearts and minds. So hopefully we can really highlight some of those stories tonight.
Right. Well, let's get to the awards. First up is the Senate Conservation Leadership Award. Before we dig into that, tell us a little bit, Rebecca, about what it's like working with the Senate. I mean, it's the more deliberative body. What does that really mean?
Right. There are fewer senators, right? They represent more constituents, and they like to take their time to kind of be the kind of last wall between whether legislation is passed or not, right? So I mean, the Senate's often known for the filibuster, right? I mean, they can debate and talk a bill to death, literally. But what's nice about the Senate is you can really dig into an issue. I mean, some of the senators that serve are some of the most intelligent, interesting people I've met in the state of South Carolina. So it's a lot of fun to get to work with senators on issues.
Well, you get a lot of fun stories out of it too.
Oh, for sure.
But ultimately, I mean, you do our scorecard. I mean, scoring the Senate is hard. I mean, why is that?
It is, because frequently by the time, the Senate has deliberated so much, right? They spend so much time.
The deliberative body.
They spend so much time in subcommittee and committee and behind the scenes that by the time they get to that up or down vote on the Senate floor, it's frequently unanimous because they want to come to consensus as a deliberative body. So our scorecard, particularly in the Senate, often doesn't tell that whole story.
Right. So, I mean, compromise is the name of the game.
Right. So you want to work with good negotiators.
Gotcha. Well, that's a great segue to our first award winner for tonight, Senator Tom Young from Aiken County, who's, I think the video will highlight just a number of those things and his skills there. Let's go to that video.
Yeah.
Conservation Leadership Award. This year's green tie goes to Senator Tom. For the Senate Conservation Leadership Award, this year's green tie goes to Senator Tom Young.
I've known Tom since he was a little kid. Tom has always been a good listener, and he thinks about what you say. Later in life, when I used to talk to him about things of substance, Tom was easy to approach. He would listen to what you had to say. If he did not agree with you, he would very quietly tell you why he couldn't agree with you. But oftentimes, instead of disagreeing with you on the whole issue, he would try to craft something that was a compromise.
So Senator Young takes the time to understand. That's the big difference. All I want is somebody who listens and tells me the truth. That's what I'm after. And he does both of those things very well. In 2015, there was a proposal put forth by Kinder Morgan to create a 360-mile long pipeline that was going to take away a lot of land from people. They came in very bullish, decided that they were going to use eminent domain almost immediately, had the right to do so. What made him work and do such a great job was he took the time to understand all of the aspects. And it didn't just result in a moratorium on the pipeline itself. It became a full investigation into what actually are the laws and who is regulating these pipelines. And I can tell you the answer is kind of scary. There's not a lot going on. And then took the time to really connect with both sides of the aisle, which is so important.
He cares deeply about what issues are affecting his district, whether it's local land protection projects, whether it's protecting private property rights from private companies like oil pipeline companies using eminent domain. He is there to protect the interest of his constituents and all South Carolinians.
Taking other people's land is a serious matter. And so you should only be allowed to do that when there's serious consequences, community value, a community benefit, that you ought to do that. And so private companies for profit, you need to be careful. Tom led that fight, and in the Senate we finally passed his bill. He's been committed to conservation, and he has consistently support conservation issues throughout the state. All of us who live on this earth has a responsibility to leave it a better place than we found it. Tom is committed to that.
Whether we agree or disagree on every issue, I want there to be a good conversation. And that's what I can depend on with Senator Young.
Tom kind of reminded me of my grandmother. When I was a little kid, I stayed with my grandmother, and she would give me all these little chores to do. And I would be complaining it's too much, too hot, too long. And she would always just pat me, so said, Junior, keep at it. Tell him to keep at it. Tom, let me just say, I think it just shows the wisdom of those who are in conservation to nominate you for this award. And I just want to let you know I'm so proud that you is the honoree for this year, and continue to display those examples that support conservation. Because in the final analysis, conservation is good for all of us.
Congratulations. I think this is really well deserved. The time that he takes not only to work for Aiken County, but for the state and for the entire river basin is really appreciated. That we're very lucky to have him, and we look forward to working with him for many years in the future.
I would like to, congratulate him on getting a green tie, and he deserves it. He'll wear it proudly, I know.
Senator Young deserves the Green Tie Award because he is a consistent advocate for conservation of South Carolina's natural resources. He is approachable, he is thoughtful, he wants communication to be transparent and respectful. Senator Young is there to find the right answer for South Carolina's natural resources. That's the kind of senator that this Green Tie Award is meant to honor. It's my pleasure to honor Senator Tom Young with the Green Tie Award for Senate Conservation Leadership.
I told y'all they were great videos. So, Rebecca, watching that, if you had to give one word to describe Senator Young, what would it be?
It would be thoughtful. And I know that sounds we would hope elected leaders would be thoughtful, right? Mm-hmm. But the first time I met Senator Young and lobbied him, and he doesn't like to come out to the lobby. He doesn't want to have the quick conversation in the room, right? Like, he wants you to come into the Senate antechamber. He wants to sit down. He wants to talk about an issue. And that's how he approaches everything. And so he was just one of the most deliberate, thoughtful, conscientious senators I'd ever encountered. And I kept thinking there was a catch to it, to be honest. But there wasn't. There's no catch with Senator Young. But he does care that much about his district. And so I really had a lot of fun awarding him this year.
That's great. As a good lobbyist, you took one word and you gave us like 5 paragraphs.
Right.
So thank you. Well, let's congrats again to Senator Young for your Senate Conservation Leadership Award. Let's go to a video of him for his acceptance.
Thank you, Rebecca, and to conservation voters of South Carolina for this recognition. I am honored to be here to accept it and to share some brief remarks about conservation in South Carolina. At first, I must say that I'm sorry that we cannot be together during this pandemic, but I want to remind everyone to wear your mask, to wash your hands, and to social distance so that we can stop the spread and get back to doing what we all love in South Carolina. From the mountains to the sea, South Carolina is blessed with a vast collection of different lands, rivers, lakes, streams, and beaches. Each of these helps to make South Carolina a special place that we all love. During my time in the General Assembly, I have been fortunate to work with many outstanding public servants who recognize the importance of protecting our natural resources for generations to come. The reauthorization of the funding of the Conservation Bank is one legislative initiative of which I am very proud. The bank will help to preserve and protect significant natural resources, including forest lands, farmlands, wetlands, open spaces, and historical sites. One may ask how I came to appreciate South Carolina and its natural resources. Well, the answer to that is a combination of things. First, I had a grandfather who lived in Ware Shoals and worked for 48 years in the textile mill there. In addition to working at the mill, he was a farmer. He farmed cattle, and had a very large garden. And as a child, I would go and spend several weeks in the summer with him. And it was during that time that I came to appreciate the land. Second, another thing that I did as a child growing up is I spent time at a summer camp in the mountains of North Carolina. And there I grew to appreciate the Blue Ridge Mountains and the natural beauty of those mountains, both in North Carolina and South Carolina. Third, my wife and I are timberland owners, and we appreciate what timberland owners do for South Carolina and our economy. And fourth, my family and I love the coast and our white sand beaches and coastal creeks. In fact, my children are especially fond of Pawleys Island. In my district, there are multiple examples of lands which are worth protecting. One dimension is the Hitchcock Woods. It's over 1,100 acres located within the city of Aiken. It is a great place to spend some time. If you've never been there, I would encourage you to go. It's a longleaf pine sanctuary, and it's a one-of-a-kind property. Another is the Silver Bluff Audubon property, over 3,000 acres located on the Savannah River, south of the cities of Augusta and North Augusta. At Silver Bluff Audubon is where Hernando de Soto crossed into South Carolina after seeing the shining banks across the river in 1540. Also, another worth mentioning that's in Aiken County and along the border of my district is the upper portion of the South Edisto River. This black water river is known for its beauty worldwide. These are all natural resources that we have here in South Carolina and in my district that are worth protecting. And I am proud to have played a role in making sure that happens. Thank you again for this honor. I want to encourage all of you to continue your good work and your advocacy as we all work together to make South Carolina the best place to raise a family, to work, and to live for the future. Thank you again.
Every year I get chills getting to watch these acceptance speeches. It is so much fun to honor both the legislators and advocates and just get to celebrate. I mean, it's different. We don't have 500 people in the room. We don't get to work off that energy, but the videos we were able to compile of these honorees are just special.
Well, let's go ahead and transition to the House Conservation Leadership Award. So tell us a little bit about what we got.
Well, we have two. Okay, so we're honoring two House conservation leaders. So we have Representative John King and Representative Beth Bernstein up tonight for this year's Green Tie Awards.
But before we dig into those and watch those videos, you told us a little bit about what it was like to work with the Senate. How is that different with the House?
I think I heard one representative one time talk about how she just adored the House because she felt closer to her people, right? Like it's bigger, it's a bit more chaotic. They work through a lot of legislation. They have more fights on the floor, for better or worse, which I kind of like a good legislative fight. But the House and Senate are just different. And in the House, you need teams, right? Like you almost have to run like zone defense, right? Like you need to identify different teams of legislators that can help you on different issues. And so tonight, we're actually able to honor a couple of legislators that have teamed up to help us in the past.
Yeah, I mean, one of the stories that we'll highlight is when Representative Bernstein and Representative King kind of teamed up in House Judiciary Committee and fought the automatic stay.
That wasn't a fun fight, but it was an exciting way to approach fighting that legislation.
Well, let's go to our first honoree of the two. So let's transition to the video for Representative Beth Bernstein.
One of this year's two Green Tie Awards for House Conservation Leadership goes to Representative Beth Bernstein.
I'm very excited for Beth. I'm very excited. We're here in the middle of the state. It's hot, it's concrete, it's buildings, it's stuff like that. We don't have a lot of the mountains or the coast that the upstate and low country have, but Beth gets it. She's been a fighter with us on many issues. She was one of the founding members of the Energy Caucus. She's always working for clean air and water. And, when it came to offshore drilling, even though that's 100 and something miles away, it's important to the state. Beth gets it. She realizes that she represents the entire state of South Carolina, not just here in Richland County.
Beth's outgoing and caring personality has made her a very approachable and responsive representative. I'm especially grateful to Beth for her commitment to environmental issues, a passion I also share. Her support for the resolution opposing offshore drilling and her advocacy for the plastic bag ban in Arcadia Lakes, a community near my home, are just two areas that demonstrate our shared values.
She's there for us. That's the important thing. With regard to Arcadia Lake's single-use plastic bag ban, Beth Bernstein has been tremendously helpful. The ban came about simply because of the scourge single-use plastic bags cause, the damage they cause to the environment. So we consulted with Beth as we were considering what to do, and then when we announced the ban, we passed the ordinance, and Beth stood there with us to announce what we had done. I think Beth has displayed an awareness of this consciousness, really, about the connectivity of our environment and how we need to look at it as from the totality of its vulnerability to pollution.
Representative Bernstein actually earned extra credit on this year's scorecard because she introduced so much pro-conservation legislation. So not only is she there when we need help and assistance and a champion, but she's also signing on to pro-conservation bills. She is consistent, she is deliberate, she does her homework, and she will be with the conservation lobby team on every single issue we need help with.
Conservation is an issue that anyone with common sense can get behind, no matter what party you're with. A lot of times elected officials are just looking to that next election cycle 2 or 4 years down the road, and sometimes they make some decisions or cast some votes that probably aren't in the best interests of the future of their constituents or state. Beth's not like that. She gets the bigger picture, and she wants to leave behind a better South Carolina than she inherited when she first got in public office.
Congratulations, Beth. I think it's a well-deserved honor for you to be the recipient of this award. You've proved your mettle on environmental issues and also the need to serve the community. Best wishes from the town of Arcadia Lakes, and congratulations.
Having known Beth and her family for so long and admiring their integrity and compassion for others, I take great pleasure in congratulating Beth for receiving this prestigious award. Thank you, Beth, for your tireless service advocating for environmental protection and conservation.
The Green Tie Award was created to not just honor the outstanding champions. The Green Tie Award was also created to honor the legislators who year after year put in the hard work, whether they get the spotlight or not. I'm honored to have Representative Bernstein on the conservation team. She couldn't be more deserving of the Green Tie Award. It is my sincere pleasure to honor Representative Beth Bernstein with the House Conservation Leadership Award.
Isn't she fantastic? That was so much fun.
What I love about, I'm doing the same flip that you're doing. What I love about that video, it's so bad, right? It's so Representative Bernstein. She's not just working on conservation in the halls of the State House, but she's taking conservation with her wherever she goes, and even into the community that she serves, that she represents. It was so perfect.
Right. It was just, the plastic bag story for Arcadia Lakes, it brought it all together.
That's ultimately, what makes a Green Tie honoree a Green Tie honoree. So congrats again. Representative Bernstein on your award. Let's go to Representative Bernstein and hear from her.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you so much for this special honor, the Green Tie. It's one of my favorite awards to look at. I love that green tie. Thank you. And while this year has been most unusual and we can't be together like in years past, I appreciate the opportunity to give thanks for this special recognition. It's not why I do what I do, but it is really, really special when you get recognized for your hard work. It makes it so much sweeter. You know, when I ran for the legislature 8 years ago, I worked so hard to win that I really didn't contemplate what it would be like to serve. And that's interesting, you know, because serving takes a lot of emphasis, energy, and focus. And so when I came as a freshman female Democrat in the legislature, I was really trying to find my way and what issues really resonated with me and issues that I really wanted to focus on. And what I really found the most impactful were issues with children, women, and our environment. And so since being in the legislature, those are the issues that I have focused on in trying to advance legislation that will help in those areas. And so also when I started in the legislature, when I was trying to figure out what issues were important, you also have to figure out how to get a bill to become law. And it's not that easy. A small percentage of the bills that we introduce actually become legislation. And while I have supported legislation where we've had some disappointments, through the help of organizations like the Conservation Voters, we've really had some tremendous victories. And those victories, whether we're saying fighting bad legislation or advancing positive legislation, happens because of organizations like the Conservation Voters. Because of the staff of John and Rebecca, I look to them so much for information and counsel on where we are, because we can't know everything. And so when we have organizations like the Conservation Voters and Rebecca and John, who are there day in and day out, watching what's happening in the Senate, watching what's happening in the House, it really makes my job in the legislature easier. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You know, I say this all the time, but I can advocate all day long for an issue, but until you get involved, it's hard to really make a difference. I'm one person out of 170 members of the General Assembly. And believe me, your voice matters and is very impactful. This award is as much for my hard work as yours, really. It recognizes, I think this award really recognizes this organization and all of you who support this organization for all of the accomplishments we have made together. You really make me a better legislator. You know, when I got the call about this being the recipient of this fantastic award, I was so excited. John had called me. And while we know what the Conservation Voters of South Carolina is about, and we all have an idea, I really never read the actual mission statement. So I looked at the mission statement, and the beginning of the mission statement says this: to make Conservation Voters of South Carolina is an organization to make conservation and environmental issues a top priority among South Carolina's elected leaders. And when it comes to this elected leader, me, you have succeeded in this mission. You have really made conservation and the environment a top priority for me. And I thank you for that. You know, when I first attended this luncheon, the Green Tie luncheon in 2012, I was campaigning, I was running for office, and I could not have imagined that 8 years later, I would be accepting my own Green Tie Award. I'm so honored to be among the class of environmental champions who have received this award before me. Thank you. It is an honor. It truly is. I do want to end with the little words of wisdom, which I think is very relevant in today's times. I will end with the quote from philosopher Plato. If you take no interest in your government, then we are deemed to follow the rule of fools. Thankfully, this group agrees with that, and I do too. Thank you again for this honor. It's a pleasure.
Well, Representative Bernstein mentioned that it was a tough, a crazy year. But despite all of that, CVSC has kind of continued to forge on. So before we go to the next awardee, let's talk a little bit about what this year's been like for conservation voters. So, what are the highlights from your side?
I mean, 2020 is the second year of a 2-year legislative session, right? So we started out 2019 really strong with legislative wins. We started out 2020 with the most pro-conservation legislation I've ever seen introduced by our legislators. I mean, we were so excited about what the year had in store for us, really. I mean, and it included everything from additional clean energy protections and reforms to land conservation, big audacious goals, right? Like we wanted to pass legislation to protect 30% of the land by 2030. So I mean, we had a lot of really fun stuff we were working on. And some of it will get to the finish line hopefully, but a lot of it will be a conversation for 2021.
Well, I mean, from the election side, which I work on, in the primaries, we helped 92% of our candidates win their primaries. So yeah, it's really exciting because what we saw is a lot of incumbent champions get reelected in their primaries. But there's also a lot of open seats this year. So we're going to see a lot of new faces. And we hope a lot of those new faces kind of win their primaries, put them in a good position for the general election. So, we'll have a lot of momentum to pick up on next year with those issues you mentioned.
Yeah, and when we all kind of went home, started working remotely, we also pivoted to more virtual and digital engagement with.
Yeah, you're a webinar expert now.
I think our team has done 25 webinars at last count. So.
Well, and I think what's even more impressive is people keep joining it and being a part of this. I think we have close to 4,000, 5,000 people that have tuned in for multiple of these hour-long webinars or more. So, I mean, people are hungry to engage. You've also become a podcast personality.
I didn't see that one coming when we started out.
Well, I mean, if you look at these videos, you have kind of the conservation movie star vibe with the windswept hair going and everything. So,
well, and thanks to Coastal Conservation League for co-hosting our Public Concern podcast. A new episode just dropped tonight on hurricanes.
Still not been invited to be on that one. Still not.
You're on the list, John.
Still waiting.
You're on the list.
Still waiting. Yeah, feel real
it's in the mail.
Anyways, well, I mean, I think it's important to kind of flag, like, despite everything that's been going on, we've kind of been moving forward. So every day, we get to work with the amazing lawmakers, these amazing advocates that we've been talking about tonight. We get to inspire the advocates to take action. We get to help advise, lawmakers on where the state can go, and work with advocates as they say, how do we make our voices heard? How do we make a difference?
Are you about to ask for money, John?
Well, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't. I mean, this is a fundraising virtual event. So,
True.
I mean, look, we've had a number of huge successes over the last few years. The Energy Freedom Act was passed, which was landmark clean energy legislation. A couple of the bills you mentioned, protecting 30% of the state by 2030. There's even a bill introduced to move the state government to carbon-free by 2050. Coal plant closures, clean energy advancements, reauthorization and funding of the Conservation Bank. That's the local level. At the federal level, we've seen the Land and Water Conservation Fund get both permanently reauthorized and permanently funded. Offshore drilling bans at both the local South Carolina level and passing through the U.S. House. I mean, it's been an action-packed, last 12 months, 18 months.
It has.
But we can't do it without our supporters, right? We can't do it without folks like y'all who have tuned in. So, if you want to be a part of the CVSC team, If you go to cvsc.org/support, you can make a gift tonight. And I'll say it again, cvsc.org/support.
And of course, we'll follow up.
Of course.
But more importantly, John, though, our board is matching donations up to $5,000. So now's the time. If you've been waiting to donate to CVSC, please do so tonight or respond to our follow-up email tomorrow.
Well, and if you do that, you'll be officially part of the CVSC team, the CVSC family. But speaking of kind of being a part of the team, let's go to the other half of the House team that we were talking about. Representative John King from York County is our next House Conservation Leadership Award winner. Let's cut to the video about him.
One of this year's 2 Green Tie Awards for House Conservation Leadership goes to Representative John King.
John King, I believe, represents the word consistency. He was the youngest elected city council representative in Chester in his early 20s. And since then, he has gone on to serve as a state representative, community activist, and he's been consistent in every facet of his life, both publicly and personally. He's faithful to his family. He's faithful to his church family there at Freedom Temple Ministries, where I have the honor of serving as his pastor and the pastor of his family. He's faithful in serving in the business community with the Christopher King Funeral Home. And of course, he's faithful as a representative. He's a staunch advocate for equality and justice for all citizens that he represents. And I'm just honored to call him friend.
I learned 2 things right when I met Representative John King. I always wanted him on my side. I did not want him working against me. And I never wanted to disappoint him because John King is going to be a fighter. He is going to be a fierce defender of what's right.
John King is somebody he's not afraid of anything. I remember there was this one time my freshman year, there was an environmental issue that came up and I was on the ag committee, so I knew about it. And I was really afraid of the ag committee chair at that time, and he was not an environmentalist. And so I was telling John about this, and John took it to him. He fought so hard on that issue that really just hadn't even been on his radar. And so, I mean, that just said to me, John is somebody that, I am just so glad to serve with. He's always going to have my back. And I mean, just like family, and he's not afraid of anything.
What I think Representative King knows well from his own constituents' experience is that it's not enough just to have strong environmental protection laws. Citizens have to have the ability to enforce those laws. And that's what he fought so hard, so valiantly to defend. And Representative King, I think, will be a stalwart, as he was with the automatic stay, in defending environmental standing. And it's under threat right now. So we're counting on Representative King to be as much of a champion in defending the standing of citizens to protect their community's health and safety as he was in protecting the automatic stay that we had to fight about years ago.
The Green Tie Award was created to honor legislators who are both at the front lines of an issue and those who are putting in the hard work year after year. Representative King has been consistent. He's served in the legislature for almost 2 decades. He has a good lifetime record of environmental protection. This year, he earned extra credit on his conservation scorecard for going above and beyond by sponsoring pro-conservation legislation.
It really is a testament to the zeal and energy and loyalty that he's demonstrated historically in representing his constituents and standing up for a clean environment in South Carolina.
He's remained faithful and unmoving, irregardless of how the pendulum of politics had swung over the years throughout York County and the state of South Carolina. And I think every citizen would say he's a fair representative.
John, this is like the best award you can get. And it just couldn't happen to a nicer guy, a more deserving guy. I'm so excited for you. I wish we could all be together in person to celebrate together, because it's a great day.
Representative King is a shining example of the kind of legislator that deserves the Green Tie Award. It is my pleasure to honor Representative John King with the Green Tie Award for House Conservation Leadership.
So I love your description of the representative as a fierce defender. I mean, I don't, I got a story about that in a second, but before I get to that, have you always stayed on his good side?
Mostly, I think. I hope so. I don't want to be on his bad side. So Bob Gobb in the video, he mentioned, briefly, waste incinerator in Representative King's district. Well, over the last couple of years, we've heard more talk about this, like, is it coming back, or what's it going to be like? Right. And so I ran into Representative King and I said, hey, I've heard a little chatter about, that waste incinerator thing coming up. And it was like he was going into the ring, right? Like, it was immediate reaction. He was like, you let me know, keep your eye on this. If anything happens, he said, I want to be right there. I want to be on top of it. We're going to take action as soon as we can on this to make sure that this doesn't harm anybody in the state, anybody in my community. And it was that fierceness, that boldness, and just the ready to dive in and take action that we really saw. I got to see firsthand. So, I think the descriptions that you and Representative Powers Morell gave, it was perfect. It really encapsulates. He is someone you want in your corner for sure. Now, I have one more fun anecdote. I did learn through this process that guess who was in the same freshman class together? Representative King and Senator Tom Young. When they were both elected to the House, and it was like 2009, I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but they were in the freshman class together, and I know Senator Young specifically said, wait a minute, you're honoring Representative King? We started out together. Like, this is so much fun to get awarded at the same year.
Well, congrats again to Representative King and on your House Conservation Leadership Award. Let's go to the video of him and hear what he has to say.
Well, hello, conservation voters of South Carolina. Let me first say thank you for this amazing honor as one of the honorees this year for the Green Tire event that you all are hosting. There's one thing that I'm always aware of and proud of is ensuring that we leave this world better than the way we find it. And I can say that the conservation voters of South Carolina is working extremely hard to ensure through legislation and all that we are doing in South Carolina to ensure that we leave this beautiful earth beautiful for our children and our grandchildren. One thing that I can say as an elected official is that when I was elected, that was one of the things that I wanted to ensure is that even though I don't have children, that my nieces and nephews and my relatives and my friends would have a clean environment, good water, a beautiful green space, and to ensure that we have a safe community. And so I'm truly honored that you all thought enough of me and saw my work and saw that I had an interest in conservation in South Carolina to honor me this year. Thank you so very much for this amazing honor, one of the greatest honors that I believe a legislator could receive.
That was so exciting and fun. Each year, I'm more and more impressed with this growing conservation majority we get to award. So that was fun.
So one day, my hope is that we can create a green tie caucus and actually get bills introduced and just work with these impressive award winners. I mean, the group of legislative honorees this year, I mean, they were an impressive list. I mean, I can't be more proud to award them. Congrats again, Senator Young and Representatives King and Bernstein on your awards. But now we have the Harriet Kaiserling Conservation Advocacy Award.
So tell me a little bit about this award particularly.
So the Harriet Kaiserling Conservation Advocacy Award, it's awarded to an individual who has effectively educated and advocated for the improvement of the air, water, energy, fish, wildlife, and open spaces throughout the state. It's named after the late Harriet Kaiserling, who was a 8-term representative from Beaufort. And in her words, she felt like her role was fighting for the public interest against the special interests.
Yeah.
So really representing the people and fighting for what's good. I mean, and so we are proud, to have this award named after her and recognize, folks who are, carrying in that work.
So basically, this is a way for us to show off the amazing advocates we get to work with.
Exactly.
All right. Well, let's meet the 2020 winner, Marilyn Hemingway.
Let's go to that video.
For conservation advocacy, this year's Harriet Kaiserling Award goes to Marilyn Hemingway.
I really got to know Marilyn probably about 5 years ago when we both found ourselves fighting to protect our coast from offshore drilling. Marilyn has just been a huge champion for our fight to stop offshore drilling because this is very personal to her. It's personal to all of us, but the threat of the infrastructure that comes along with drilling is as close to her as her backyard. Marilyn can talk about 400 years of history in a minute and have you understand why it's so important to protect our coast. Not only to protect the people who worked with their hands for 100 years, 150 years to form the wealth that came to this area, but also to talk about the future and what the impact is going to be on generations to come.
Offshore drilling, there's other means, so why should we even take the chance? I got involved because I know if Marilyn was there, it had to have been something that's important about it. Before then, I didn't look at offshore drilling. I looked at it when it first came out. Man, this is great for jobs and stuff of that nature because that's what was being promoted. When you're educated on something and you understand it more, you have to ask yourself, is the value to you much greater than the value to life and down the road in the future of your community? And the answer to me was no. And that's her impact. She makes her argument so clear that you can't miss it. It's like, wow, I have to be a part of this.
Marilyn really shines when she's working in her community. And she started the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce as a way of really bridging the gap between economic development for Georgetown and specifically the African American community and sustainability around the conversation that, look, we don't have to choose one or the other. We can have both. And we can do it in a way that is not only bringing opportunities to our community, we can do it in a way that creates a healthier, better community for all with much better quality of life too.
Marilyn's just a go-getter, and the work that she's doing with the Gullah Geechee Chamber is extraordinary, and she is just driven and has been since I first met her. Of course, I met her back in 2014 when I decided to offer for the Senate. And she has been the same way, a community activist. The work that she's doing with the NAACP is extremely important, particularly in the climate that we find ourselves in. And so to have somebody who is poised and trustworthy and focused, I think has just been a joy for me to work closely with her.
This is Marilyn's calling, and it's really important, and I'm so thrilled
that she's being honored with the Green Tie Award. I can't think of anyone who has been in this offshore drilling fight with me who hasn't put in as much energy and time and considered care as Marilyn has.
If anyone deserves this award, it's Marilyn. You know, her commitment to just mankind, unselfishly. She's a very unselfish person.
So recently we celebrated the life of one of our residents of District 32, who just happens to be her father, Pete Hemingway. And I just know how proud he would be watching his daughter receive this award. Congratulations, Marilyn. We are so proud of you, and God bless.
Marilyn deserves this award more than anyone else I know. She's fought tirelessly to bridge the divide between the greater conservation community and the communities who are disproportionately impacted by the issues that we talk about every day. Marilyn recognizes that the communities that are closest to the issues, a lot of the issues that we talk about in the conservation space, are also closest to the solutions to those issues as well. And I think the way that she is having those conversations is going to benefit communities, especially Georgetown, for many years to come. It is my sincere pleasure to honor Marilyn Hemingway with the Harriet Kaiserling Green Tie Award for Conservation Advocacy.
So each year, I get to call all the Green Tie Award winners, and I mean, that is one of my favorite things that I get to do each year. But each year, there's one award winner that I call that after I'm done calling them, I'm smiling for like hours, and I can't stop. I mean, and for me that year, it was Marilyn. I mean, you know, she was so humble. You know, I think genuinely surprised, but you know, she's sincere, she's honest. I mean, but she's just passionate at the same time. I mean, she's just a joy to work with her, whether it's offshore drilling, whether it's clean energy, whether it's environmental justice. I mean, she's just in the mix on all of it. I mean, and it was one of the best phone calls that I had, and it's just one of those ones that stuck with me.
You know, I haven't gotten to work with Marilyn as directly, right, as some of the members of our team, but everyone has the same feeling after getting to work with her. It's just a lovely experience, but she's also a force to be reckoned with, right? Like, I mean, she is another person I want on my team.
Yeah. She's just able to fight hard, to get it done, and to raise the issues in ways that stick with you and make you smile at the same time.
Right.
Well, all that being said, let's go to Marilyn, and congrats again on the Green Tie Award for Conservation Advocacy, the Harriet Kaiserling Award.
I cannot express how delighted I am to receive this recognition from the conservation voters of South Carolina. When I received the call informing me I was selected to receive the Harriet Kaiserling Conservation Advocacy Award, I quietly thought, wow, well, this is totally unexpected. Well, at least I hope I was just thinking those words in my head and not thinking out loud. But now I have an opportunity to express my excitement and to say thank you, conservation voters of South Carolina, for this wonderful award and the association with the late Harriet Kaiserling, a champion of women's rights with a focus on energy, nuclear waste, education, and the arts. I also want to thank and honor my late parents who instilled in me a love of nature and the great outdoors. They planted the seeds that led me to become an advocate for our community and our environment, especially when we spent time at McKenzie Beach, crabbing and fishing, with the understanding that our environment provides sustenance for our family and our community. It is our responsibility to take care of that which cares for us. And also thank you to my higher being who led me to have a vision to create the Gullah Chamber of Commerce and to advocate for a healthier environment, green renewable energy, and addressing climate change. I truly believe our indigenous and marginalized communities will save us. And it is why the Gullah Geechee Chamber created environmental and energy conferences, conversations, and roundtables to listen and to educate our elders and youth and recognize our role in protecting our environment, seeking opportunity in green renewable energy, and saving our world from climate change. And thank you to my Gullah Geechee community that nurtured me in a spiritual connection to our land and water, a people who made a way out of no way, a people who took what the earth provided and sauced it up, seasoned it up, laid it to the side, and made it stand up. I am here so proud to be Gullah Geechee and to honor our ancestors as a caretaker of our environment. As meaningful as this award is, this is just the beginning of beautiful and impactful action and conservation. I look forward to working with my community and environmental partners and you, those in the grassroots and those in the State House who continue to be conservationists and keepers of the earth. Thank you, and Godspeed.
What a perfect ending. It was just so fantastic.
Hello, and this honoring the 2020 Green Tie awardees in the midst of, well, it's been a year. Getting to honor this great team, this great cohort that's working to make South Carolina better is just, this is a fun break.
Yeah. Well, I have a few more things to do. We have a few more things to do, but thank you for joining us, Rebecca, and thank you all for tuning in. First, we want to thank the awardees again. Thank you to Senator Young, or congratulate the awardees. Congratulations again to Senator Young, Representatives King and Bernstein, as well as Marilyn Hemingway. Congrats on your awards. We look forward to sharing these with you socially distanced when we can. I also want to give a special shout out to all the CVSC staff who made today possible. Cassie, who you saw in the video, Meredith Cook, who is holding up cue cards, writing cue cards, behind the scenes, making this all work, who really, I think we're on Plan W for Green Tie this year. So our staff has been absolutely amazing at pulling this off. Of course, we have to thank our sponsors again. Again, Oceana Gold Hail Operation, Google, Next Era Energy, Arnold Nemero, Packlet Milliken, El Close, and the Pump House Restaurant. So, and many, many more who y'all have seen all the videos and other places. But we had some amazing speakers join us. So thank you to all the community members and speakers who have helped us out. Thank you to the conservation community. Ultimately, the advocates that are within the conservation community, it's what makes these folks that we've honored tonight be able to do what they do.
We don't accomplish anything in a vacuum, and this stuff would not work without a good team.
Right. Well, and it's that perfect synergy of voters caring deeply about the air we breathe, the water we drink, the landscapes we leave for the future, and lawmakers and grassroots leaders who care coming together to improve our state. That's what CVSC is all about. That's what Green Tie is all about. And so we're just so happy to be able to honor all of those folks tonight, celebrate all the great achievements this year. Yeah. Well, I think that's Green Tie 2020.
That's it. We kept it.
Time to spare. Exactly. So thank you all again for tuning in. Thank you all for making Green Tie 2020 a success, and we will see you in person. In person is the plan for 2021. So thank you and good night.